Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here and to be sharing this experience that we had in Madrid in the City Council for more than 15 years already, with different stages. And maybe if I can have the first slide. I should do it. Well, the presentation is called the Opportunity of the Citizen Labs, and I always like to start the presentation with some images of what you can see sometimes when you enter to the Media Lab. Can you play the video, please? Okay, sorry. So can you put the video? So I really like this idea of visitors coming into the building and experiencing the bustle of cooperation, of people getting together and work together, collaborating projects that they have proposed, experiments that they have proposed, in collaboration with other people that have joined, volunteered to make those projects possible. And what we want to do is to connect or take advantage of the diversity of the city and try to channel this kind of cooperation between people that are mostly they hadn't met before, they are strangers between each other, and they have different backgrounds. So there are not so many places in our cities where we can meet together with other neighbors and make projects together, make experiments. And I think that mainly public institutions that we have inherited, they're mainly content providers. Sorry, can we go to the presentation? So now I will show you some examples of what were those people that you saw working in different projects, what kind of prototypes they were making together. So I will go very quickly, showing, for example, this project on architecture and building places to play and making toys between designers, architects, kids, and families, how we can create environments to play. There's also, for example, this open textile lab, where different generations are cooperating in developing different projects. For example, this open source mannequin, where you can take images of your own body and make a mannequin with your body to test your textile experiments. There are some projects now on air quality. This one is using the data offered by the city hall, the stations offered by the city hall, and you can see how, in a way, the city is breathing through time and what is happening in the city with different components of air quality. Another example has to do with this new open hardware tools, these new tools, so you can put, you can take data from any place and share it with other people, and going beyond what the city has to offer in data. There are also some more artistic approaches, and this one is not a data visualization, but a data sonification. So using the data offered by the city hall, one station, then the different birds are singing, and if the CEO, for example, goes beyond what is recommended by healthcare organizations, then the bird would be distorted, the sound would sound wrongly. So this idea, he wanted to play, or this team wanted to play with this idea, how we have made our cities full of sensors, but there are bioindicators that also can tell us about the health of the city. So, for example, this citizen science project is measuring the size of certain lichens on trees that are very good indicators of the air quality in that point, and then through this crowd crafting platform, people can analyze the air quality in different places of the city. In the line of work on data, for example, there was this workshop on migrations. And this is the story of a kid, a 10-year-old girl that had to go from Syria to Europe. So this represents through different chapters, there's different stages, through a comic and then through data infographics and data visualizations that show the magnitude of the problem. There's another project around data and privacy and personal data. Dracula is called. It's all the data that we share when we browse websites, and then they offer these 6 tools to try to be aware of this situation and try to defend yourself from this data we're sharing without knowing. There's another group that I like very much. It's called Wikisfera, and they are editing articles in Wikipedia, making it better from a gender perspective. There are not so many women that are editing Wikipedia, and also women are underrepresented in Wikipedia. So they're working on that. They organize these editathons where they choose, for example, women that are scientists or philosophers or music composers, and they edit articles about them. This was a workshop to digitalize the letters, text that are on the facade and into different fonts, Sería Sobre and Sería Extravagante, which are now Libre fonts that can be used elsewhere. So they are digitalized. And this is a good example of how some of the projects that are locally made can then be useful in other places, like, for example, in the Wikipedia project. This is a biodigester, home-scale biodigester to transform organic waste into biogas to cook. And then I go a little bit more in detail with this project called Autofabricantes. They are making open source prostheses, especially hands for kids, that they are growing, and the commercial ones are very expensive because they need to be changed very quickly. So it's a group of designers, software developers, families concerned and affected with kids with this problem. And this group, which is locally based, around 30 people are getting together every week. But there are also people collaborating in the outside. And this is, I will finish with this example because I think this can show us a way in which this kind of locally based projects can scale up thanks to the internet. So they, for example, developed this project called SuperGeese. So they are not designing and building hands, but other tools that allow to swim, to make the service for paddle tennis, for a kid that couldn't handle the ball, to ride with a bicycle, to bounce the ball on basketball, to cut, to hold the cup. So can we put the video, please, the next video, the second video, please? Here I wanted to show you one of the use of this SuperGeese project that was tested before the summer. So it's like an interface where you can add different tools for different functions. Okay, so if we go back to the... So to this, well, this is another example that they were experimented with another lab of experimentation with sound. They created this hand that played the piano. So not all the projects have to do with solving problems, but also experimenting because the joy of it or for the fun of it, and then this could also benefit the other projects. So to this kind of place or this kind of platform where people can get together to make their own experiments and connect different profiles, develop anyone's capability, we call it Citizen Lab. And some people have described it as, in a way, as the internet in the physical space. And the whole presentation, you'll see that we're very interested in how the internet can be used to enhance face-to-face collaboration, face-to-face communication, and the other way around. So we can we can also enhance or make better experiences of online experiences through face-to-face communication. Another definition of the lab has been an incubator of communities. I would add communities of learning or communities of practice. And I also like this idea of the citizen laboratory as a commons lab. So a commons as a place where a resource and a community are linked together very much. And they manage different ways of dealing with this resource, how to handle it, how to use it, how not to ruin it. And these kind of protocols are quite important. And I would like to show you which one are those. But before, I wanted to just comment on this Homo Faber trilogy, because I think it's quite interesting how it goes from the craftsman, the first, our ability to make things. The second one was together, our ability to cooperate. And the third one, which has been recently published, is our ability to build environments, to build cities. And in this last book, he says we need also, this ability is not going to merge in our cities on its own inevitably. We need also some top-down planning, top-down policies that enable these interactions between people that are different. The cities that we have inherited doesn't really allow these interactions, so we need to channel these places for cooperation. And also I would add that this cannot be done alone in one city, but also in the network of cities. So I recommend this trilogy by Richard Sennett. So now I wanted to explain which are this is the venue of Media Lab Prado for the last 5 years. And I would like to tell you about how do we achieve this kind of collaboration and how we handle the diversity that we want to promote. So which are the ways in which Media Lab is working? So the first one is the open calls. And there are two kinds of open calls. First, for projects, for ideas. This one, for example, had to do with how we deal with waste, dwelling waste, it was called. And some projects were selected. 8 projects were selected. And once these projects were selected, there was a second call for collaborators. So we had this, for example, this proposal by Ismael Som. He is building this kind of boats with empty plastic boats. But when we tried to get them in Madrid, it was impossible because the recycling cycle is very strict, so we couldn't get the bottles, and there wasn't any point in buying empty bottles. So once he joined the collaborators, the group of collaborators, that's the second call that we opened, the project evolves to a different thing. And that's the idea, how the first idea is just a starting point for a meaningful collaboration between all the people that want to join and make this project possible. So here you see in the Retiro Park how different the boat ended. Well, we have open calls, the 2 open calls for projects and collaborators, the prototyping workshop where all the projects and all the people get together. That workshop, the international workshop, lasts 2 weeks. And the third way of doing that I think is very important is documentation. So that's how a very local experience can be replicated elsewhere and shared, how the knowledge can be shared, and not only the successes, but also the mistakes. So this is the EcoBoat. They did like an IKEA documentation. And the fourth way of doing, which is very important, is cultural mediation, and it's how we make truly a place that is open, truly accessible and welcoming to the visitors. There are a lot of barriers that somebody may face to join this kind of experience. So it's not only publishing an open call through to the internet is not enough, so anyone feels invited and welcome. So there's this operation of cultural mediation, of welcoming the visitors, actively inviting other people to join. And this is actually what summarizes the whole function of the Media Lab, how to really activate new collaborations. I have to say that now there are 2 open calls open on food futures, and one has the name of Eating Against the Collapse, and the other one is Tracing Data, Food Data. And I would like to invite you to those. I will share that later in the Twitter account. And one of the goals, as you see, some waste, mobility, we're dealing with now with food, and we think that this kind of experience can tackle the sustainable, I have to translate always Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. I can't say it in English. Sorry. Sustainable Development Goals. Sorry. So this is a... Sorry. That was the only thing I practiced, Sustainable Development Goals. And I think this kind of, the Citizen Lab might be, and that's what I want to ask you, if you think this can be this kind of policy lever. So how, it's not, we all agree with the goals, but it's not clear how to tackle them. So I think this might be a good tool. I will go very fast with the last part of the presentation. These are the lines of work of the Media Lab. There's a prototyping lab, sound and visual experimentation, citizen science lab, there's a data laboratory, and there's this one on participation and collective intelligence for democracy. This is a collaboration with the area of participation, transparency, and open government. And we organize this kind of international workshops, again, in this case on collective intelligence for democracy. And some of the prototypes go beyond the lab. So for example, there is this new city observatory that is being selected by sortition. So this idea that citizens are randomly chosen, and then they create this as very representative because it was done randomly. And this is an image of the G1000 experience, which is a similar approach of randomly chosen citizens to debate around topics. So one of the prototypes developed in the workshops now has an effect. And now I'm going to talk to you about another experience. This is Consul, which is a free software tool that many cities are using, and it was started in Madrid. And this shows the power of free software. And this tool is for creating participatory platforms for deliberation, voting, proposal, participatory budgets. And there is one platform called Decibel Madrid, where everybody's making proposals to be voted or to be selected in the participatory budget. So this is a good way also to listen to the problems of the city. So at Media Lab, they developed this this visualization, semantic matching and ordering the different proposals to see how they can be strengthened. So sometimes there are a lot of small proposals made by individuals or by small collectives. So if we group them in these clusters and we call them to a meeting like this one, for example, and say, okay, let's talk about mobility, or let's talk about the relationship between, there's a lot of concern about the relationship between kids and children and the city. What is happening there? And there were a lot of proposals. Some of them were small, some of them were bigger, but how we can make them much better. So that we created we offered this meeting place, and a new platform was created. Well, this meeting place is called Propositive Communities. So they were working together. This is the one with children and kids. and a new project started. It's called Right to Play, and there are now stronger projects. So I really like this way on how online tools enable meaningful meetings and then go back to more powerful proposals in the online. I think this kind of a journey is interesting to think of. And the last lab I would like to talk to you about is the Citizen Innovation Lab. And this one is a lab, it has two main lines. The first one is called Madrid Escucha, Madrid Listens, and wants to deal the relationship between civil servants and citizens, how we can create places where they can cooperate in developing projects together. There's going to be one on mobility in March or April. And the other project of the Citizen Innovation Lab is this one called Experimenta Distrito, and it's about how we can replicate this citizen lab model in peripheral neighborhoods. So this has already happened in 4 neighborhoods in different types of institutions. So it was a library, an innovation center, a social center, a cultural center. It's going to be one next year in a healthcare center, community healthcare center. There's going to be one also we want in a school. So as you see different types of institutions that want to open up and offer places to connect with the outside and to open places for experimentation, to play with the unexpected, and at the same time creating new communities of practices. This is the kind of tool that I think the citizen labs are offering. So other cities are also, the City of Mexico has also tested it in a neighborhood, and Berlin is also going to start one in different cities also in Spain. So we are trying to imagine how it could be a network of neighborhood labs. So a project that has been developed in a neighborhood in Medellin, in Colombia, can also be useful in a neighborhood in Madrid. So these are the international networks that we've been trying to build with other collaborators. This is the Social Innovation Center in Nariño, which is in the south of Colombia. It's called CISNA. And in a lab there, one of the Ibero-American citizen laboratories, they started this GECO lab, which is, they are building also prostheses, and they are connected with the lab in Madrid. So this collaboration is already happening. I don't know if I have 1 minute. So I will show you in the last video what Auto Fabricantes has done in the last 3 years. And it's not appearing there, but there are other labs that are working and collaborating with this project in other parts of the world. And I think this is a good image of what the possibility or the potentials that we can see in this kind of labs.
Thank you very much.